Hey everyone. It's a great day of recovery, just one day at a time. As long as we're doing the steps, we could be safe and protected. So today, I apologize to all those people who tried to watch the silent video. Yes, there was me talking, but there was no sound coming out. Maybe that was a better thing. But here is step three, the root of our troubles. Yeah, I've had this on my heart to go into a deeper look on this. So if we want to go to our AA books and page 60, it's talking, we just finished reading the 12 steps. And it says three things became clear. A, we were probably alcoholic or any other addict and could not manage our own lives. And actually, codependency, same kind of thing here. Okay, we cannot manage our own lives as well as the lives of others. B, probably no human power can have relieved our alcoholism or other addictions or codependency. That God could and would if he were sought. Being convinced, we're at step three, which is we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood him. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? So this is really interesting. We hear people talk about, hey, I gave my life to God. And we can do that. But what does that really mean? What does that really mean? Well, we have to get to a place where we realize me doing this is not working. Okay. My running of my own life is not a good thing. So the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. It's hard to be convinced of that. I think we struggle, or at least I struggle with being defaulted to that. I have an idea, I have a really good plan. If people just follow the plan, that my eyesight is so clear, I can see what needs to be done. Versus, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe my plan isn't the right plan. Maybe things are supposed to go a totally different direction. Let's assuming if I'm going down the path of Erik's path and my plan, it says on that basis, we're almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Think self-powered there. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show. A director, someone who wants to run everything, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his or her own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actors may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. It's fascinating to see this from the standpoint that this is written in, I think, 1939. And they're describing a personality that's expansive, that has all these good ideas. If the show would go just as he wants, and in trying to make these arrangements, we can be kind, really people pleasing. Um, that how I want things to go. So I'll be really patient, I'll be kind, I'll be sacrificing, I'll do these things rather than maybe do what I think God wants me to do and just say what I think he wants me to say without this need to have my little grubby little hands on situations to handle it. We can also get frustrated and be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. Okay. So what usually happens? The show doesn't come off very well. You think so? He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. Enter side stage self pity here, okay? He decides to exert himself more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. Notice the difference is that there's this thought, yes, I know I'm somewhat at fault, but the emphasis should be on everybody around me. Let them change. Like maybe I'd stop drinking if my family was different, or I'd stop spending money if I wasn't so lonely and people were involved in my life, or the government is doing this and the whole world. I want the world the way I want the world to be. Still, the play or the world does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he really not a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest or wrestle satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? Is it not evident to the rest of the players that these are the things he wants, and do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. That sounds familiar. Everybody's complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Politicians and reformers or protesters who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave to their liking. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society's wronged him. And the alcoholic or the addict or the codependent who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, or self-pity? So how fascinating is this? This is this idea that I want the world the way I want the world, whether it's politically, economically. I want the government to be a certain way. I want the traffic to be a certain way. I want the people in the grocery stores and department stores. I want customer service to be the way I want it. I want the technology industry of the internet to work. I want. And if everything would just go my way, I'm convinced of that, then everything will work out great. And then I wouldn't have to drink. This is just a seltzer drink called Pedal. It's actually quite good. Not inebriating, but good. See, that is the root of our troubles. It's going to say that I want things to be the way I want things. Okay. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some time in the past, we had made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic or the addict, sexaholic, compulsive gambler, compulsive overeater, and compulsive codependent is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though they usually don't think so. Okay. Yeah, there is this denial we have that I'm really convinced that what I'm doing is for the good of all. But this says that really I'm driven by fear. If I don't get what I want, bad things will happen, whether it's panic attacks, whether it's the people around me. And we'll later learn how to see these things, that there's a certain catastrophizing going on. If I have a flat tire on my way to the airport to get on the plane to go to Europe, not that I'm doing that, but that would be catastrophizing. And I didn't order that on the menu, and that's not on the script. People work with me here. But that's how life is, or we get some illness, or we have some financial challenge, or we have troubled relationships that we can't control people. Who came up with that idea? you know, that, yeah, so I will later talk about the things I've learned from this, but that's the disease speaking. That is the disease. Yes, folks, this is not what it appears. We think that it really is about the drink. We think that it's about the drink, the drug, the marijuana, the smoking, the fixing of others. If I can just fix people, or I shouldn't be fixing people. Sexualism, compulsive overeating, spending, gambling, because spending can be a challenge too. No, the root of our troubles is selfishness. It only manifests itself in this. By the way, I'm not trying to put pedal on a bad note here. It's actually a good drink. I'm not trying to sell it. But the idea is that it's really the root of my troubles. So people can stop drinking. It's staying stopped. And if there is this continued self, and more self, that would be the dry drunk behavior. And it doesn't fare very well, especially in relationships. So our troubles, it says sometimes they hurt us, meaning the other people, seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some time in the past, we had made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So how do I hurt myself? With my own expectations. Like I would expect that I would have a perfect ride to the airport, or that I would have a perfect, healthy life, and then I die peacefully without any maladies or no injuries, or I would have loving relationships, and that it would all work out and everybody would be harmonious, and that there would be no glitches in life. And that's what's hurting me. If I expect to be living in a world that is broken and fallen, a beautiful world at times, but a challenging world at times. And through God's grace, I have different expectations, then everything changes. And this is much deeper than just lowering expectations. It's getting rid of self, we'll later learn. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic or any other addict is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything we do, we alcoholics must be rid of the selfishness. We must, or it kills us. This is a true statement. People can go, well, how can it kill you? Through overeating. I could overeat. I could get rid of one addiction just to find myself overeating. And my expectations of the world and my unhappiness because I didn't get what I wanted, take me away in the wambulance, is going to block God's grace, and then I can't stay sober, and then I end up eating or drugging or whatever. So my job is quite simple, not easy, but simple. It's to get rid of self. How am I going to do that? Well, that's what the 12 steps are about, really, it's to humble us. And so that we then can acquire God's grace by getting out of the way. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. There often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. So God has to help us get rid of self. This is not a self-help program. This is kind of getting rid of self program, which sounds very odd. It's not like the personhood of Erik goes away, but it's the ego, the sinfulness, the selfishness, the flesh, whatever we call it, is this self that's fallen in this very unhealthy self. Oh, it's pride, inflated sense of self, self-obsession, self-driven, self-directed, self-willed, self-powered. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. How many of us have tried harder, just listening to more and more self-help or sermons, homilies, and we just keep on doing these things, trying at our own strength, okay? But we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to, these convictions. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. This is kind of humorous. I had a person just say, so, wow, I'm really trying to use self-reliance to get rid of self. And we all kind of had a chuckle. Yeah, God is the only person who can help us reduce or get rid of self. We had to have God's help. So this is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. So that's what I need to do, and say to myself, quit playing God, Erik. If it's supposed to happen this way, the flight gets canceled, or the baby gets sick, or we lose a lot of money, or I'm a human being and make mistakes, or I get some illness, or the list goes on. Things that are unexpected. So we had to quit playing God. It did not work. Next, we decided that hereafter in the drama of life, God was going to be our director. So he is the principal, we are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. Nice writing there. When we sincerely took such a position, so sincerity is important. We sincerely get to the end of ourselves and say, you know what, I am done. I'm turning in my clipboard and saying, whatever, God, you want, not what I want. Your will, not mine, be done. If I take that position, and the position is humility, that I am a human being, that I'm a gift from God, this life, but I'm animated dust, that when all is said and done, I'm going to be in the ground. And it's weird. We're valuable. We have worth, but in a sense, we can't do anything unless God wills it. And we don't know that. Some of us know it more than others. But even just being able to speak with sound today I could be grateful for that rather than take any credit for that. So if we take such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. And this is true. This is really true. It's really wild I could list on and on all these miracles, all these things. There is no way on earth except that they happen through God's grace and me getting out of the way. Yeah, for a while I was pretty excited to get out of the way. It's like, wow, if I got out of the way more, he could do even more things. And that happened. And then, of course, sneaky as the dark side is, I started to get more and more self, and then it ebbs and flows. So I try to examine my life and to get rid of self. This would be 10th and 11th steps, which we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, fear, and resentment. Where selfishness is the root of these things is that fear, a lot of us struggle with fears, a lot of us struggle with angers and resentments. And anger is, I didn't get what I wanted in the past, and I can't let it go. And notice, I wouldn't be resentful if I didn't have an expectation or kind of want anything to begin with. Anger is, I'm not getting what I want now. And now anger can be useful. It can help me fight sin. In fact, it can help me look at what's bad and boundaries crossing, etc. But it's me wanting something. And then anxiety is always going to be about, I'm afraid I'm not going to get what I want. What if I get cancer? What if I get penniless? What if I get ill, or this child happens, and all that stuff? All that is just me wanting something. So if I have died, in a sense, and in the Christian faith tradition, we're to die to ourselves. We are to be crucified with Christ. We are to no longer live, but have Christ live in us. Then we won't want much. We'll just want to serve God. We'd pray, God, your will, not ours, be done. When the car has a flat on the way to the airport to the international flight, it's like, God's will be done. If someone gets cancer, not to be insensitive to the emotions there, but God has a will. Either I'm connected with him and asking him for his will to be manifested in my life, or I'm not. If I'm asking him for that, then how could I not believe that he's allowing that to happen in my life? Maybe the traffic is supposed to be this way. Maybe the world around us, that seems to be, a lot of people are kind of shocked. Maybe it's supposed to be like this so that something good can come out of it. It's not like it's the first time dark things happen, I'm not saying that it's good that sinful things are happening, but I'm just saying a lot of people, we can be quite frightened, but it can actually calm ourselves down a bit to say, well, maybe just because this isn't on the script of Erik's drama, then I'd be fine. So when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. We were reborn. So now we're at step 3. And this is the third step prayer, which I will pray here. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that it may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. So that's a surrendering prayer that says, God, your will, not mine, be done. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to God, or utterly to him. So abandonment to God, you'll hear as a phrase a couple of times. We abandon ourselves to God. To abandon oneself means to abandon oneself, to say goodbye. Sorry, I'm leaving. It's no longer, I'm not going to cater to you. But to place ourselves in the hands of God is the best thing we could ever do. And sometimes we have to get to the bottom of our life, the bottom of the barrel, till finally we will just go, whatever. Anybody else running my life would be better. To me, it's God. I'm not a fan of other people running our lives. Like the group is my higher power. I don't think anybody intended that to interpret the steps this way. People can do what they want, but I think people understood that it was the God of their God of their own understanding, not the God of their definition. So it's better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional so long as we expressed the idea of voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, and a fact, sometimes a very great one was felt at once. Yeah, people will feel an effect. I witness this all the time in my own life and working with others professionally. They go, "This is so weird. I feel like really, really different. I feel like I might not use anymore." Yep, that's the effect of turning your life over to the care of God as you understood and understand Him, because God's power begins to flow in. The challenge is if we start running our life again, we lose that power, we lose that momentum. And I'm going to read this, even though it says step 4. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is personal house cleaning, which many of us have never attempted. House cleaning, though our decision, so that's step 3, or our prayer was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves that have been blocking us. Our liquor or spending, gambling, overeating, spending, lust, fixing others was but a symptom. We had to get down to causes and conditions. And what you'll learn about in step 4 is that really it's all the ways self manifests itself. It's an inventory that we do, and in which case it helps us to then, on a day-to-day or in a big way, unblock this artery that's blocking us from God's power. But we'll be doing that the rest of our life, taking, the web screen, web page of my life where there's a decision to be made, and it's always defaulted to Erik's will, God's will, and cancel. Maybe choose this. It's always defaulted to Erik's will. I have to manually move the cursor and push God's will, God's way, not my way. And then there's no little box that says check this box for all future decisions. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to do it manually, day by day. So you take care, good friends. I hope this comes out so that you can hear it, and also that this blesses you. Have a great day in recovery.